Good evening and welcome to the Imperial Court of New York Transgender Day of Remembrance commemoration. This is the first trans Pacific event that we're doing in a few years, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our show tonight. I may not be able to see you, and I probably will not be able to follow the chat that's going on, but I do want to thank you so much for joining us. This is a really important day to commemorate our transgender community. The Transgender Day of Remembrance was started in 1999 by transgender advocate Gwendolyn Ann Smith as a vigil to honor the memory of Rita Hester, who was killed the year before in San Francisco. So this vigil commemorate all trans people lost to violence and began an important tradition and became the annual Transgender Day of Remembrance. Today, there's probably around 200 or so events, vigil that's going on around the world. Now, for me, this is a little bit even more personal because 3 days ago, I lost a friend to domestic violence. My friend, Uni Carey Herrera, was a beautiful young trans woman from Cuba who I know for about 10 years when I was living in Los Angeles. Uni was a consummate pageant queen with multiple titles to her name. She also performed in various clubs and bars and for charity all over the country. And she does advocacy work for the trans community as well. Unfortunately, 3 days ago, Uni was stabbed 36 times by her live in boyfriend. He is now in custody and has confessed to the crime. This is why we commemorate the Transgender Day of Remembrance. This is why we need to say their names. Uni Carey Herrera. So thank you for joining us. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you the reigning monarchs of the Imperial Court of New York, Emperor Graham the Cracker and Empress Madelyn Keyth. Hello there. How are you both doing tonight?
Good evening, Your Majesty.
Good evening, and welcome to the show. I wanted to just get your views about the importance of a day like this.
Well, having so many trans friends that I know I've personally lost over the years, it's very important to remember them, to remember the needless and senseless ways that we lose some of our brothers and sisters, and to make sure people don't forget that other people need to stand up, support them, and help them.
Emperor?
Transgender Day of Remembrance 2020 honors those who died between October 1st, 2019 and September 30th, 2020. For that period, 47 lives were taken in the United States that we know of. And worldwide, 386 people died. This includes death by violence, by self-harm, those who died in ways yet to be determined, and sadly this year, from COVID-19.
Yes.
It's just horrifying.
And that's very true. Trans violence are especially widespread in Latin America, specifically against trans women of color. As our Emperor Graham said, these are just the known cases. Many crimes actually go unreported, and far too often the victims are misgendered, sometimes intentionally by law enforcement, and sadly, sometimes by family members. These are not just statistics, they are real human beings deserving of the respect and the right to live their authentic lives. And tonight we are going to be reading the names of those we have lost. These are primarily trans people who have lost their lives in the past year. And Empress Madelyn, would you start us off by honoring these lives by reading some of these names?
Of course. On September the 28th, 2020, Mia Green, 29, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. September the 19th, 2020, Arian Burnett, 37, Independence, Missouri. September the 15th, 2020, Gia Valentina Romanaldo Rodriguez, 46, from Miami, Florida. September 7th, Isabella Mia Lofton, 21, from Brooklyn, New York. August 31st, 2020, Ellie Chi, 23, from the Bronx, New York. August 26, 2020, Shelley Lynn Rose, 16. August 13th, 2020, Key Sam, 24, from Lafayette, Louisiana. On July 28, 2020, Aja Raquel Roan Spears, Rocky Road, 32, from Portland, Oregon. July 27th, 2020, Trisha Hardy, 24, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. July 26, 2020, Tiffany Harris, also DRH OVA, 32, the Bronx, New York.
So these are just some of the names of people that we have lost in the past year here in the United States. We're going to be reading more names of these friends of ours. And at this time, I just want to thank our Emperor and Empress. We'll bring you back later, and then we can talk about some of the plans that we have for the rest of the year at the end of the show. So thank you, Emperor Graham, and thank you, Empress Maddie.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite a good friend of mine to start us off, all the way from Hawaii. Let's bring in Empress Danielle Logan. Hello, Empress. How are you?
Aloha, Empress Coco. I'm wonderful. How are you today?
Good. I just really want to thank you for being able to join us today, especially because of your work with the International Court Council. I know you do a lot of advocacy work, and you post important information for all of us on the website. But let's start off by understanding what this community is about. So why don't we, the transgender word was not around during my days. We don't have that word. So when this word came around, it's a big word and it's a large umbrella. So who comes under this umbrella?
Basically, the trans umbrella encompasses everyone who does not identify with the gender that they were assigned at birth. It may be through gender identity or gender expression.
So, so would drag queens fall under this umbrella as well, or cross-dressers, or,
Most definitely.
Most
drag
definitely.
queens and cross-dressers are under the trans umbrella.
So now, do we just assume that they are transgender, or is something that they have to self-identify?
Well, it's there's really, you can't force anything on anyone. Some drag queens do identify as transgender. Some will say, no, that's not me. I don't identify that way. It's up to everyone how they want to identify. And it's very important that we keep in mind that there's no one right way to be transgender. Everyone identifies in a different way.
So we should just respect people's perspective of how they identify themselves then. This is just,
Most definitely.
Okay. So how important...
It comes down to respect.
Yes, exactly. Because for a very long time, the T in GLBT for me just is a token. For a lot
Yes.
of gay men and women, the fact that, okay, let's include the alphabet T and let's keep them quiet. But that is just not right, because if one of us is targeted, all of us are targeted. And, when you are stopped by the police, or when you go to the hospital, they don't say, okay, let's see, are you gay or are you trans? So, so we should just respect people and how they identify. So how important are pronouns?
Pronouns are very important. Pronouns are the most hurtful thing to a trans person. By someone not respecting your pronouns, that is one of the largest ways that you can hurt a trans person. If you really want to help a trans person, and if you really don't know how to approach the pronoun issue, just be honest and ask a trans person, what pronouns would you prefer I use? Or just listen, see how they refer to themselves.
Yeah, for me, the way I approach it, I don't usually ask what is your preferred pronouns, because sometimes it's not a preference. I would sometimes just ask, what is your pronoun? And don't be afraid to ask. Asking is educating. So,
Yes.
because sometimes for non-binary person, it's hard to be pigeonholed into a pronoun. How do you think one should approach that?
Again, it's you have to learn, you have to listen to that person, listen to how they refer to themselves, and be honest, ask the person, say, I don't know. Ask them to educate you.
Is it appropriate to sometimes go by the way they present themselves?
Yes,
At a given
you can
time?
do that as well. And everyone has something that they carry with them every day that is the greatest tool to educate themselves with, and that is the cell phone. You can look up so many things and educate yourself. And then you can also kindly ask someone, hey, is this how you feel? Am I doing the right thing here?
Well, so tell us about some of the do's and don'ts when you are interacting with a trans person, because sometimes some gay men might think it's funny, and sometimes it's just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
And they would say to someone who have had surgery and says, "Oh, can I see it?" Is that
Yes.
appropriate?
Yeah, no, that's very inappropriate. First of all, it's no one's business. You don't have the right to touch another person. You don't have a right to ask, have you transitioned? It's really not appropriate to ask, do you want to transition? Some people will choose to medically transition, some people won't. And it's not everyone's business to know. It's that person's personal journey, and it needs to stay that person's personal journey. It's not for everyone's knowledge. It's touching people is just not something that you should do. Asking to see things, asking to feel things, that's very inappropriate.
Okay, and you said earlier that the cell phone is such an important tool, but whose job is it to educate people about transgender?
Basically, it is the person that wants the knowledge. It's the person that wants to ask the questions. It's your job to find out the information. I'm the type of person that I will answer your questions. I will help you find that knowledge. There are people that don't want to teach you. They don't feel that it's their job to teach you. But if I don't teach you, you're not going to know how to treat me. You're not going to know how to treat my community. So I'm one of the people that will gladly provide that education for you.
So what would you say to a young transgender person, whether male or female, and give them some tips or helpful hints, especially if they're young, and what should they do? Who should they go to for help?
They should go to the elders of their community. They should go to the people that they respect in their community. They should go to the people that have paved the way. The people who've been through this, who've been fighting for our rights for years. People like me, people like you, people who can put them in touch with services. Their local LGBT center. There's several organizations and several services within our local communities that we can refer people to. And, any advocate in your community is going to have a list of those services.
Just like a young person, whether they're gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender, it's always difficult to come out. And I'm very proud of young people who come out early.
Yes.
However, I also would like to offer an advice of caution. If you're really young and you're really still living at home, running away from home is not always the answer unless you're thrown out, because too many of the young kids end up in the street. They're homeless, and then they get into all sorts of situations that should not be experienced by younger people. What do you think about that?
I think everyone needs to think before they act. They need to think of the consequences, you know. It may be hard at home, but it's going to be harder in the streets. You know, there's counseling services for the family as well. You know, these things are not easy for an entire family to deal with. The entire family may need to go to counseling to deal with something like this, to learn how to deal with a trans child, or a trans sibling, something, you know. But there's services out there to help everyone,
So,
and I encourage people to get that help.
so as a parting word, I would really would like to say to the young people out there, you know, as Danielle said, sometimes it's hard to stay at home because you're not being treated well, but it truly is much harder out there. There are too many people preying on young people. We hope you are not one of them. So parting words from you, Empress Danielle.
Stay the course, fight the fight. You know, it's excuse me. 30 years ago, I didn't think that we would ever see a president-elect thank us in a victory speech. It's taken 30 years, but we're being recognized. You know, it's slowly but surely we are coming into our own. We're coming into our own right. You know, it may take another 30 years, but the path is there. The path, we're fighting the good fight, and we're being recognized. So it can only get better from here.
Thank you so much. And again, I appreciate you joining us here tonight all the way from Hawaii. Aloha.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I hope I'll see you soon.
I do too.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if our next guest is in the green room. If she's in the green room, Egypt, we can patch her in. Otherwise, we'll go to the reading of names. So I will just be surprised who my tech person will patch in. There you go. Okay, so here we have welcome all the way from Atlanta, just because she's with family. It's Sugar Be Real. Is still with us. Sugar, what does today mean to you?
Well, as an ally and doing volunteer work in the LGBT community for the past 30 plus years, I've always believed in human rights and believe that everyone has the right to live their true, authentic self. So while this is a sad occasion, we are here to celebrate their spirits and their energies of all of our trans family that have now gone on to the Rainbow Bridge, as they call it. So with that being said, I will now read the names. I have to put on my glasses. And I've tried to read this several times without crying. It just doesn't work. So I will try again. July 13th, 2020, Madelyn Monroe Kazans, age 22, Raleigh, California. July 6th, 2020, Angel Martinez Gomez, age 42, Santa Monica, California. July 4th, Summer Teighlor, age 24, Seattle, Washington. July 3rd, Bree Black, age 27, Palomento Beach, Florida. Shaky Peters, age 32, Indiana. Sorry. June 30th, Dea McCarthy, age 28, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. June 30th, Marcy Mack, age 22, Oak Cliff, Dallas, Texas. June 30th, 2020, Tatiana Hall, age 22. A lot of life to live, sorry. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. June 25th, Brayla Stone, age 17. Sherwood, Arkansas.
This is so this is so heartbreaking because some of these people are, as you said, terribly young with a full life ahead of them. So that's why it's important that we honor their lives. I
Yes.
thank you, Empress Sugar Be Real, for joining us. I thank you for all the work that you do, and I hope to see you soon.
I hope to see you soon too. Have a good Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you. So, like I said, I'm not sure if our originally scheduled speaker is in the room or not. If she's not yet in the room, I'm going to bring back our next panelist. She's a member of the Imperial Court of New York, the Grand Duchess Fran. Fran, are you there?
Yes,
Hi,
I
Fran,
am.
how are you?
Hi, very good. How are you?
I'm good, and I thank you for
glad to
joining
be
us today. What does the Transgender Day of Remembrance mean to you?
Well, as we look back with sadness and respect and remember what's happened, I also use this day as a way to look forward with positivity and to be inspired and inspire others to show more kindness and respect and fairness. And I use a story. I often go back in my own life. I'm living 10 years. It'll be 10 years on January 1st as a full-time female transgender. But I've been cross-dressing since the age of 8, 9 years old. And I was very hesitant. I lived in secret. I cross-dressed in secret. I even got married to a woman, built a life, had a daughter, career, lived as a man, first as a boy and then as a man, but quite unhappy that I wasn't living my authentic self. And so finally I came to terms with that. I would go out weekends and would go to organizations and had friends and would go out clubbing and leading a pretty fun type of trans life. But during the day in my regular life, I felt very secretive and dishonest, till finally, influenced by other people and friends helping me, I transitioned to full-time female. I had a business. I moved into my own business. And this is a story, a quick story of how I was almost killed. I was hit over the head with a baseball bat, once to make me unconscious. And while I was laying on my store floor, I was hit twice more. I survived it through, I think, some kind of a miracle and through the prayers of my family and friends. And then I didn't have much permanent damage as a result of that. And actually, the event caused me to develop a hatred toward the person who did that. I was never a hating type person. I never sought revenge against anyone else. But in this particular case, and it may have been the morphine that I was on for a period of time while I was recovering, I then determined that the only way I could avenge myself would be to kill him. And so I actually planned the murder of a person. I felt like I was the devil at night and I was living my regular life during the day. And I put a kitchen knife underneath the seat of my car. And every night for 6 or 7 nights, I went out visiting the drug rehab centers in my town and neighboring towns, because I believed that nobody hated me because I was very androgynous looking at the time. I wasn't out in public that when this happened, but I looked androgynous, and this was a hate crime. He didn't like the look. He didn't rob me of anything. He came in and deliberately tried to kill me.
So what happened?
So what happened was probably the biggest silver lining in my entire life. And when I was determined to kill him and I would go out each night, my wife would say to me, "Where are you going?" And I would say, "Oh, I'm just going for a ride to clear my head because I was going through a lot of mental issues at the time that this event had happened, that I was hit over the head with a bat. So as I was going out, I would try to get to the drug rehab centers. I was planning that as he filed out with all the other people, I was going to follow him down an alleyway. I was going to take the knife that I had underneath the seat of my car. I was going to knife him in the throat, and I was going to deal with whatever would result, not thinking properly. And so what happened is I got on the street. I had an intuition that it was going to happen. I was going to see this guy in a few minutes. I pulled the car over. I put my hands on the wheel. I put my head into my hands. I started praying as deeply as I ever prayed in my life, that God would somehow take me out of the moment. And I can't explain it. It wasn't water, but it was a huge amount of energy came through the windshield, hit me, my head, in my face, hit my head back. It hit the headrest. For days afterward, I had like a sprained neck. And at that moment, all of the rage, all of the hatred, all the revenge that I had in my system came up like a volcano, erupted out of me. It was an unbelievable experience. And in its place, it was like water rushing in to a crater, into a hole. In its place came a huge amount of forgiveness and positive energy. And that event, that being almost killed, turned itself around from, instead of a day that I was extra cautious, it reaffirmed to me that it was okay to still be my wonderful, loving self and not withdraw from it, and seek and spread that word to as many people as I could. And so that is my story and what came from it.
So, Fran, after undergoing such a traumatic experience, who do you go to for support?
Well, you go to a number of places. Some people, as in my case, I'm a believer in God or a greater force than us. And I also believe that each one of us, people, each one of us are agents of this greater force. So first, I go to people. It could be close friends, it could be family, it could be experts, it could be centers, it could be resources, like some of the resources. There's many resources in trans. There, you seek out, as Danielle mentioned earlier, there are many elders around. You first start with your family. And what I found is not being self-expressed enough with my own family growing up, because I grew up in an Italian-American, very prejudicial environment. If I was better expressed with them, I might have transitioned 30 years ago rather than 10 years ago. So number one is with people and God also. And then also the community. There are many people within the community, and you can get a lot of that information from social media and stuff. But as Danielle mentioned, LGBT centers. I was on the board of an LGBT center in White Plains, New York. We help many, many trans people. And so just reach around. But the most important thing is to get yourself expressed, not to feel guilty about anything. You're your own beautiful being, and just keep expressing yourself.
And you are truly a beautiful being. And I thank you for sharing your experience with us about how you're able to turn it around and have a beautiful life right now. I thank you for all the things that you do in the trans community. Thank you, Fran.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Coco. And thank you all. And thanks to the court. And the court is an example of an LGBT organization that's mostly L and G. And even though my brother was gay, I didn't really have that many close friends who were gay. I had many who were trans or cross-dressing and stuff. And the court has helped me greatly in better understanding that community as well. So
thank you. And tonight you have gained even more friends. Again, thank you, Fran.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. at this time, I just want to bring in another member of the court, Imperial Court of New York. She's actually just joined us a year ago. So let us bring in the Baroness, Dolores Dégagé. Hello, Dolores. How are you?
Hi, Coco. How are you?
I'm very well, and I thank you. I know that you're at work in Connecticut, but tell us about your trans experience into who you are today.
Well, my story's a little different, I think, because I came to the realization and the decision to transition much later in life, and not having really never thought about it in those terms. I was with someone who unfortunately passed away from cancer, Sassy Saltimboca, who transitioned before she passed away. So I experienced that desire and that transition, and this is somebody that was born to be a girl and thought the girl her whole life. So for me, it was really different.
Was it a difficult decision?
It came at a time, Sassy passed away 5 years ago, and I didn't really grieve properly. And after 5 years of kind of shutting things out, my brain literally stopped working about 1.5 years ago. And I went through a lot of medical issues. I went through a lot of, I began intensive therapy, which I should have been doing before she passed away. So, and in the course of that, we've started to talk about that maybe, because I've been the character of Dolores Dégagé of drag since the 80s and have always been very comfortable with that. And in the course of therapy, I realized that I think I began to think I'm non-binary or two-spirited, if you would, because I never realized that men think of themselves as men and women think of themselves as women. I just thought of myself as me, and I thought everybody thought that way in their own head. So in the course of therapy, I realized that that's not the case, and I just kind of came to the decision. When I first came out last fall in September, I came out as non-binary, and I went with the they, them, theirs pronouns. And within a couple of months, I mean, I knew that deciding I was non-binary. I knew I was going to be presenting females. My desire was to present feminine. That was where I was comfortable, and that's where I was happy. I knew that when I was Dolores, it's when I was happy. It was when I wasn't sad, and I wasn't, the problems I was having as a gay man, I didn't have when I was Dolores out in public as performing in drag or doing one of my drag brunches or doing a lot of the fundraisers I used to do with the Connecticut court and now with the New York court. So it really became a matter of just a realization over therapy. And I think it really happened last summer. I got an opportunity to be Dolores for 3 days straight. I was on a Bravo reality TV show called about camping here in Connecticut, and they wanted me to be Dolores the entire weekend. And I was like, well, what do you mean? How many times do you need me in drag? They said, no, the whole time. We want you to arrive in drag, get off the bus you come in on, and you're in drag until you leave. And I'm like, I've never done that. I've never been Dolores for 3 days in a row, 3 nights in a row. And by the end of the weekend, I knew that I was never going back. So if you were happier, I met so many people and made new friends and new relationships, and they had no idea who I was besides Dolores. And that was the beginning. That was in August.
Dolores, so if you were to do this again, would you have done it earlier in life?
I thought about that, and we've talked about that. I've talked about that and thought about it with my therapist. And, I realized I came out as a 15-year-old in a small town in Texas. I was outed, actually. I was seen with someone that was obviously male. And there was no choice. I was immediately labeled queer, faggot, gay. There was no choice. There was no other letters. Gay was incredibly illegal. Everything about it was illegal then. And you didn't have a choice of being transgender or all the variations of non-binary. And, and would I have chosen something differently then if it was now? I would have. Because I wasn't dating that man as a 15-year-old because I wanted to date a man as a man. I was dating that man the way a girl would date a man, now that I look back at it.
know I met you about a year ago, and I can tell you the transformation from just a little over a year ago to who you are today, and I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
And I want to let our audience know that Dolores actually is a dance instructor at a dance school. So how does it feel going back to work as Dolores, and how are your students reacting to the new Dolores?
I'm actually at the dance studio now. Well, where I worked before, at that same time period in my life that went upside down, that ceased to exist. I mean, a lot of things went wrong, and that was one of them. And so I gave up dance. I thought I wasn't going to be involved in that any longer. So it was a part of me that was closed. And at some point, there was a lot of medical issues, and I had to make some tough choices. Which I actually, when all that ended, I actually became homeless last June 10th of 2019. I became homeless, and I really fell on hard times. And through that process, and through all these processes, is where I've come to this. And what I've realized is that when I wake up in the morning, I'm not sad anymore. So it's really a beautiful thing. But I thought I was done with dance, and then I needed some extra money. I mean, I can't be poor. So I got a job teaching at a studio, and it was too much for them. First time in my life at the age of 60, I was fired. I've never been fired in my entire life. So I experienced that in this new life of mine. And then I guest taught for a friend, and that's turned into where I am now at the Joneland Dance Company in Hamden. And it's absolutely fantastic.
And
I mean,
you know what?
I'm called Miss Dee Dee by all my kids, and they love me and adore me, and it's fantastic.
And Dolores, you know what? The best revenge to a past life is to look fabulous and feel fabulous. And you are fabulous. I thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for doing this. This is a beautiful.
You have enriched my life as being a friend, and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. It's a beautiful way to do remembrance.
Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce to you a really good, he's more than a friend, he is family. And all the way from San Jose, Costa Rica, Emperor Henry Harrington. Hello, Henry. How are you?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight in this amazing evening of remembrance of the Transgender Day.
Henry, what does the Day of Remembrance mean to you? What does the Day of Remembrance mean to you? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello?
What does the Day of Remembrance mean to you? I think we're having a little audio problem. If you all bear with me, sometimes when I look down, it's because I'm on the phone communicating with people. I'm just gonna text Henry. Henry is here to help us read some names. So Henry, when you are ready, go for it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you were asking me before about what was the meaning of
the Day of Remembrance.
Well, for that day signifies the day of many beautiful souls that have lost their life due to the transphobia. And there's something that we all need to be concerned every single day of our life. It's a fight that we don't stop, and we need to keep moving on and try to find the right ways how can incorporate laws and other things to protect our dear fellow members from the trans community.
Can you go ahead and read some of the names so that we can commemorate their lives?
Sure. As follow. June 13, 2020, Brian Powers, Eagle, Akron, Ohio. June 9, 2020, Remy Fells, 27, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. June 9, 2020, Ryan Milton, 25, Liberty Township, Cincinnati, Ohio. June 6, Anain Amnon, 16 to 20 years old, Chicago, Illinois. May 31st to 2020, Selena Reyes Hernandez, 37, Marquette Park, Chicago, Illinois. May 27, 2020, Tony McDay, 38, Tallahassee, Florida. May 6, 2020, Haley J. O'Regan, 20, San Antonio, Texas. May 9, 2020, Jane Thompson, 33, Orchid Mesa, Colorado. May 3rd, 2020, Nina Pop, 28, Sickiston, Missouri. And finally, April 11, 2020, Johanna Mester, Baltimore, Maryland.
And with that note, I thank you, Henry, for joining us all the way from Costa Rica. I hope to come and visit you real soon. Muchas
Anytime.
gracias.
And thank you, everyone, for having me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'd like to bring a special guest to our panel. He is from Indiana. Let's welcome Emperor Jaime Alaniz.
Hello. Hi, Your Majesty.
Hi,
How are
Jaime.
you tonight?
How are you? So thank you for joining us. Tell me, what does the Day of Remembrance mean to you?
That means to me that my work here isn't done yet. That's what it means to me. It means that folks like myself and many other trans warriors out there, our job isn't done. We have to educate the world on who we are, that we deserve to live and exist. So that's what that means to me. It means that we're not done. I'm not done here.
So, I'm sure your experience as a trans man varies from some of the other experience that we heard before. How does a trans man fit in? Are you trying to just blend in? Are you trying to sort of like, how does one fit into society? Is it difficult?
It is difficult because there is no
I may, if you can
mold.
speak louder, that would be great.
Sure. Can you hear me? Is this better?
Yes, just a little bit more.
Okay. But there's no perfect mold for trans men. What does that actually look like? There's so many variations of men, right? There's masculine men, there's feminine men, there's just, such a huge variety of what the man looks like. So for trans men, it is very hard for us to fit in because there is no mold that we perfectly fit into. So some trans men, when they start transitioning, some of us go into what's called a stealth life, meaning we just doing so well that no one ever questions us. No wonder who we are. For example, myself, I get that all the time. I get all the people always say that I would have never imagined. I would have never thought you were trans because I look like the average guy out there walking the streets. So it is very hard for us to try to find a place for us in the world. Because we don't know what that is. There is no perfect man or person or masculine. There is most being very different than female.
I completely understand. I completely understand because the first time I met you, I did not know you were a trans man. You were just Jaime to me. But tell us also, the stereotype sometimes people have of a trans man as opposed to a lesbian. There's a big difference between identity and preference. Sometimes people just assume if you're a trans man, you want to become straight, and but it really is not always that way, is it? Sometimes you're attracted to different type of people.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. There is a huge difference between sexual, which is who you're sexually attracted to, versus identity. You know, this is sexuality whatsoever. You know, so there's a huge stigma and stereotype. You know, for the many men that I have met over Grindr and many other apps, the first thing they always say is, "Well, if you were a woman, then why did you become a man? If you're just trying to be with a man, you should have just stayed a man." That have to do with anything. This is my gender, this is my sexuality, and identity are totally different things. So that is very much one thing that we get stigmatized with all the time. Everyone assumes I'm a straight man. Little they know I'm a very flamboyant gay man. But you know, again, it's just the assumption. Everybody just assumes if you transition, this is who you are. For example, I have a very gorgeous, beautiful wife who's a trans woman. Does that mean that she is a straight woman? Absolutely not. It's her preference. Again, gender and gender identity are two totally different things. You know, you'd have to ask her how she identifies in that sense. But you know, there's a million labels out there. We don't like to put labels on ourselves or put ourselves in boxes. But absolutely, there's two very different things there, and you know, people need to become a little more educated. And I will go off of what Danielle said. Absolutely, everybody has a computer literally in their hand in the form of a phone. Educate yourself. Educate yourself. If you want to know the difference, there's sexuality and there's identity. Two totally different words, two totally different meanings.
And for those of you that are not aware, Jaime is actually the reigning Mr. Indiana Leather. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Was it difficult winning that title? Because sometimes even in the leather community, there is sometimes discrimination against trans men.
Well, it wasn't difficult to win it. It was more my nerves. And
flamboyantly fabulous.
No, it wasn't difficult to win because I ran unopposed, so it wasn't difficult for me. But is it a challenge? Is it a challenge? Absolutely. I'm the first trans man to hold the title here in the state of Indiana as Mr. Indiana Leather. There's also our MX title holder, which is Titan. They are my counterpart to our title. So again, yes, our Mr. IML right now, he is the first trans man to become Mr. IML. So again, you know, we trans men are within our community, as are all trans folks. Whether gender non-conforming, non-binary, trans women, trans men, everybody's making huge strides to make sure that we're seen and we're people know that we're here. So was it difficult? Like I said, I ran. So how difficult was it? It was more myself. It was battling myself because it was my nerves. But I knew that there was more at stake to that. I knew that I would be the first trans man to hold this title if I won. If I was able to complete everything and receive this title, I knew I'd be that first person. So I knew that what kind of pressure was going to be held on my shoulders. And I've had an incredible organization that I work with. You know, the Indiana Leather team is incredible. My counterpart is incredible. My support team here at home, whether it's my wife or my friends, you know, my family, everybody is super supportive. So being a part of the leather community has been very new to me as a trans man. You know, just seeing the different things. But again, meeting Mr. IML in Chicago pre-COVID, and just hearing from his actual mouth, you know, the words of encouragement of saying, you know, you should keep fighting, keep going, you know, go take your leather title as far as you want to go. If you want to come for IML, come for IML, compete. It was the greatest thing you will ever do. And just getting that exposure and continuing to be a champion for ourselves, for our community, and being out there, you know, you're a winner already.
And I congratulate you on your successes, and I thank you for being a role model for the younger trans men in our organization. And I thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you again in Indiana soon. Thank you, Jaime.
Likewise. Thank you, Your Majesty. Have a great evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. For those of you viewing this, in case sometimes you see me looking down, it's because I have notes and I have notes and I have more notes. And once in a while, I communicate with my, oh, sorry about that picture. I communicate with my tech people in the background just because I cannot see what's on the chat. So I apologize if you see me bending down or getting too close like that. So anyway, to my tech person, Veronica, anytime Egyptt comes back, just patch her in. In the meantime, if she's not there yet, let us bring in from Connecticut, Bryce McKinzie. Hey, Bryce, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Bryce is coming to us from Connecticut, and Bryce is a member of the Imperial Court of Connecticut, and is a very hardworking court member. In fact, you have an event coming up called Translation. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So we have a third line in Connecticut, our non-binary, gender non-conforming line, which I'm on, and two of my co-hosts, Anna and Harper, will be hosting along. We will have performers who are trans and interviews with trans people, such as Scott Turner Schofield, Jack Thompson, Miss Trans New England, a whole bunch of people. And it'll be about 2 or 2.5 hours. So, but it's going to be really worth it. We have someone who's going to be later on, who's going to be speaking at ours, who's speaking on your event here later on. So it's going to be great.
So Bryce is here with us to help us read some names of those that we have lost to trans hatred or violence. So Bryce, go right ahead, please. Thank you.
April 3rd, 2020, Henrietta Robinson, 79, Miami, Florida. April 1st, 2020, Ashley Moore, 26, Newark, New Jersey. March 30th, Lorena Borjas, 59, Queens, New York. March 28th, 2020, Lexi Ebony Sutton, 33, Harlem, New York. March 18th, 2020, Monica Diamond, 34, Charlotte, North Carolina. March 12th, 2020, John Scott DeVore, Scotland Kelly DeVore, 51, Augusta, Georgia. February 21st, 2020, Camila Maria Concepcion, 28, Los Angeles, California. January 4th, 2020, Alex McCrae, 22, St. Louis, Missouri. And January 1st, New Year's Day, Dustin Parker, 25, McAllister, Oklahoma.
So Bryce, I thank you for joining us. Keep doing the good work that you do, and please send my best to your most loving parents.
I will.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bryce. All right, and moving right along, I'm sure Veronica will just surprise me who our next person is. And if that surprise is not coming yet, I am going to introduce, oh, there you go, our newest member of the Imperial Court of New York, Lady Wendy Darling. Hey, Wendy.
How are you? Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Already, you have spoke volumes about what people's experiences are by offering a program like this. Transgender Day of Remembrance is more than reading the names. It's saying, who are the people? All right, let's find out what their experience is. And just sitting here watching this, it's just been so incredible. So thank you, Coco.
Wendy, I know that you've been very active, not only online, but also in the tri-state area. What do you see as some of the progress that we have in the last couple of years for trans equal rights?
Well, for trans equal rights, one of the things that Danielle brought up earlier, it is so very important to have LGBTQ centers and to have trans groups that meet once a week, because tonight, as you've heard, there's so many different kinds of challenges that people go through, whether they're young or whether they're old. In particular, in my community, I have a lot of people that have transitioned late in life that were living a very hetero life, a house with a white picket fence and 2 teenage kids, and often a blue collar job. And I really feel that that is a demographic that we really have to start looking at and give support to. I'm a child of the 70s, and when I came to New York, my friends that transitioned in their 20s, it wasn't given any second thought. You know, they started out, maybe they were bi, then they were gay, then they were like, no, I'm transgender. And in those days, people would often get this, you know, the surgery. The hormones did not go as far as they do now. Fast forward to now, where Julie Gray Owens said this, and it's a very good point. You can be anywhere on the train. Think of transition as the Long Island Railroad, right? So you get on at Penn Station, and you might get off in Farmingdale and not go all the way to Montauk. But it's a great analogy. Some people go all the way to Montauk. Some people may get to Montauk and then decide, you know, maybe I should have gotten off in Baldwin. But the reason I like this analogy so much is we are lacking, I feel, in educating the public. And that is one of the things with my organization, which is called Triversity. That's one of the things that we really try and do. We try and do that outreach. Now, you started out this conversation by saying to me, what progress have I seen? So I don't have to tell you the last 4 years of this administration was just absolutely the worst. I can't go through every single thing that was rolled back, but we all know how many of them were. All right. But I am an eternal optimist. Let's look forward. You know, we have a brand new administration, and now I think we can really move and shake. Right? Right? You agree?
I totally agree, because, you know, we saw so many, as you said, rollback, like the use of the bathroom in schools, teaching gay history in school, or even trans in the military. However, we should also commend a lot of the local state governments, because in California, in New Jersey, in New York, and many other places have made it easier for someone to legally change their name. And then also most recently, because of the work of a New York court member, Babs Sipperstein, who there is a law in New Jersey that was signed last year, went into effect last year, that made it easier for trans people to change their gender marker.
Yes, the gender marker certificate. That's absolutely huge. Many people are not aware there's states like Tennessee. Why am I not surprised? You can't do that. You absolutely can't do that. And then if you have the surgery, okay, that's not even enough for a lot of the other things. So we have a lot of work to do in this country. But I personally believe, you know, we're all up for it. We can do it now. Listen, this is what most recently happened. This was in the last couple of days. They used to, if someone had a name change in New Jersey, you were outed. Your name went in the paper. Your name went in the paper for everybody to see. That just ended, okay? And that happened now. So I fully believe going forward, you know what? It's a wide open road. I have to tell you, had the election turned out differently, I wouldn't be sitting here saying that. I wouldn't. I'd probably have a bag over my head and want to just cry.
Exactly. The requirement for name change or gender marker change has been relaxed in many places, that surgery is not required. And not only that, you don't require a letter from a psychologist to say, yes, you're allowed to change. You know, that's huge. So there is a lot of work to be done. And what are some of the agencies that we can look for help? Because I know I am a big supporter of the Transgender Law Center.
I know the Transgender Law Center. My organization, we service the tri-state area. It's called Triversity. We are online. It's called Triversity Center. We're on Facebook. We offer, if we can't help you solve what you need, we have a lot of really great referrals. And again, we service New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And we're privy to a lot of the new things that are starting to change. But the one thing, Coco, I personally am adamant about, and every single person that has been on the show tonight and has spoken and who's watching, we've really got to educate the public. All right. Most people in the United States of America, their idea of transition was Caitlyn Jenner. We're a reality show culture, and that's not going to fly going forward. So how do we do this? Okay. LGBTQ organizations, they should all have support groups. They should bring in speakers. I do a show on Sunday night. It's called Triversity Talk. It encompasses any of the letters LGBTQ. But one of the people I brought on, besides Francisco, who's always an amazing guest, I had on a nurse, Holly Lorca, who is a nurse in the transition part of the hospital out of Texas. She couldn't say what hospital it was because things are crazy, but she went through the surgery and what the recovery is. People have so many questions, and any of us involved in this need to be able to answer that. I think, you know, Danielle said it, you have to look at your phone. We all have phones. We can Google absolutely anything, anytime.
There is a lot of work to be done, and truly, you know, it is by asking questions, it is by being out there, and we would love to see you at Triversity Talk. So, Wendy, thank you for joining us tonight.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going towards the end of our show, but before we do that, I'd like to bring in from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, one of our dear friends, Teighlor Davis. Hey, Tay.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Teighlor, I am so impressed with you. I know I don't know you that well, but I've seen you post stuff on Facebook. You are an important part of my education by your willingness to ask questions, by your willingness to challenge authority or opinion. So thank you for doing that. What does the Transgender Day of Remembrance mean to you?
Obviously it's a day to memorialize our lost, but it's really about a day also of celebrating our strengths, our ability to, even in those short period of times, to live our authentic life. And for many of these people, to say their name one last time. A lot of our lost brothers and sisters were pushed aside by their family and left aside and left adrift in the world. And they claimed their identity, they claimed their name, but nobody else is going to say their name once they're gone. So we need to keep saying their names, keep remembering them.
I completely agree, because there has been a couple of times when I was living in California that a trans woman passed away, and when the family came, pick up the body at the funeral, they dressed her back as a man.
Yes.
And that is really sad. And you're here to help us read some names. The names that we are reading tonight are mostly from the United States. So Teighlor's going to help us read some more names. Teighlor, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm doing this off my phone. I don't have a printer.
That's okay.
December 29th, 2019. Mia Penny, 26, Washington, D.C. December 19th, 2019. Yahira Nesby, 33, Brooklyn, New York. December 18th, 2019. Alice Carter, also known as Baby Alice, 35, Washington, D.C. December 10th, 2019. Angel Rose Garcia, 21, Hyattsville, Maryland. December 7th, 2019. Nikki Kunahazen, 17, Larch Mountain, Oregon. October 14th, 2019. Brianna Beebe Hill, 30, Kansas City, Missouri. October 11th, 2019. Daphne Dorman, 44, San Francisco, California. October 10th, 2019. Christine Zephyr, 23, Mankato, Minnesota. October 6, 2019, Corbin Ray Bach, 23, Paducah, Kentucky. December 22nd, 2019, Julie Berman, 51, Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Teighlor, I know Julie is a friend of yours, and I'm sure today means even more to you.
It does. I met Julie when I was very young, just briefly. We were young queens. We were sex workers. We were family. You know, when you're at that age and you're a young sex worker, you find your family, you find your safety. We would go to after hours together. We would celebrate life. We were young. We went our different ways, and I connected with Julie again in the last 10 years, and she had took her lessons on life on the streets and as a trans woman and turned that to advocacy in the city of Toronto, harm reduction, and peer group counseling, and working with the 519 Center in Toronto. And it's a huge loss. Obviously, all these people are.
And thank you, Teighlor, for mentioning the words that sometimes is the elephant in the room: sex worker. We are not here to judge what someone does for a living. For a trans woman, sometimes, especially for a trans woman of color, it is extremely difficult to go through life if you are homeless, if you have no job, and sex work sometimes is their last resort.
62% of the deaths last year of trans people were sex workers.
Yes.
That's an alarming number.
And, last year there were about 350 recorded deaths in the world. And Brazil alone accounts for 40% of the 350. And they are mostly trans women of color. Yes. So, Teighlor, I thank you for joining us tonight. Let's chat some more online and keep on posting, because you are educating a lot of people.
Thank you so much for having me. My love to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. So tonight we have one last guest, and he is a hero of mine. He truly is. Back in 9/11, he was part of St. Vincent's Hospital. And St. Vincent's Hospital was the main triage center for all those injured and casualties of 9/11. He was really in the thick of things. Recently, when I came home to New York, I had to look for a new health provider, and a friend of mine suggested Mount Sinai, and I did go, and I'm so happy with them. One day I was sitting in the waiting room, and I picked up a brochure, and the brochure said Center for Transgender Medicine and Surgery. And I was very intrigued, and I said, oh my God, this is wonderful. I opened the flyer, and this picture stand out to me. I said, I know this person. This person is a member of the Imperial Court of New York. In fact, he is a past emperor. And today, he is the senior director of Mount Sinai at the Institute of Advanced Medicine. And it's the Center for Transgender Medicine and Surgery. Please help me welcome, I totally love him, Matt Baney.
Coco, you just made my day.
Is that an intro or what?
You just made my day. Thank you so much.
I truly mean this. When 9/11 happened, you were one of my heroes. A few days after, because I lived nearby, I went and spent about 3 days making peanut butter and sandwiches. And for many years later, I could not stand peanut butter. But now you're at Mount Sinai, and the clinic that I go to, and I'm so happy at. And tell us about this program called the Center for Trans Medicine. When did it start?
Sure, Coco. Well, first of all, I have to turn around and say to you, you're one of my heroes too. So let's be mutually adoration.
Thank you.
So yes, the Center for Transgender Medicine and Surgery at Mount Sinai Hospital here in Manhattan started in 2016. It started as a very small program. We didn't know exactly what we were going to be getting, I guess. So we started with the idea to start slowly, build and build and build and build. And we anticipated that maybe we would have 30 surgeries in the first year, and we had over 300.
Are you talking about sex reassignment surgeries?
We're talking about bottom surgeries right now. We are not talking about top surgeries. So bottom surgeries are genital surgeries, and then top surgeries. We had about 300 bottom surgeries in our first year. It was an amazing experience. Out of that, we are probably now done about 1,200 surgeries. That's not counting the top surgeries. We've been really at the forefront, and I think our program is probably the largest in the country. One of the things I really love about our program, which some of your speakers have been already talking about, is the continuum of care that we provide. I think it's really important, and many of you have already said this, not every transgender individual wants surgery. And I think sometimes people think that's the end point that everybody wants to get to, and that's not the case. We like to provide a spectrum of everything from primary care to surgery. And as our speaker said about the train, that's a wonderful analogy because we do exactly the same thing.
But did you have to recruit or retrain personnel to for trans-sensitive issues and stuff like that? Was that?
Oh, absolutely. We trained the entire staff for sensitivity to transgender individuals. We also made a concerted effort to recruit staff members who reflect our patient population. I think that's very important. I like somebody to walk into the room and see someone who looks like them or has a similar background. So that's been a big issue. We were talking before about pronouns, and I have to say that no matter how much training people can get, sometimes they slip. And I think it's up to us to take that as a teaching opportunity and let them know. We do try to start off by stating what is your pronoun and how would you like to be called. It's not, and I really say this from a director of a program, please don't hesitate to correct us. Those are honest errors because we're trying to be as sensitive as we can, but help us because if you don't tell us, we're not going to get it right.
Believe me, my doctor now calls me Coco. So, so you provide a whole range of medical services, not just surgery. Does that include like hormone therapy and stuff like that?
Oh, sure. I just jotted down a few notes. So I'm like you, let me look down. Don't think I'm not paying attention. So we provide primary care, hormone therapy, feminizing hormone therapy, masculinizing hormone therapy, endocrinology, GYN, urology, behavioral health, social work, otolaryngology, which is for feminizing the voice, plastic surgery, which we'll go into in a second. We also do.
Let's go into that now.
Oh, okay. We're going to go into.
I need to know what services I can get to make me pull.
Come in and visit. One thing that makes us unique too, I just want to throw this out, is laser hair removal. I think sometimes the patients are left outside to get that on their own, and we actually have it internally for us. Some people are electrolysis are a little better, but we actually provide the laser hair removal to prepare people for surgeries. So under our plastic surgeries, we do orchiectomies, we do breast augmentations and masculizations, we do voice feminization, we do hysterectomies, we do facial feminization, we do vaginoplasties, we do metoidioplasties, and we also do phalloplasties.
So as you were mentioning those, so your patients are not only trans women, you also help trans men then.
Oh, absolutely. We have a spectrum, as I said, of all kinds of patients, from pediatrics to geriatrics.
How about ability to pay?
Ability to pay is a very interesting question. As we move forward in the years, as some of your speakers have already mentioned, the world is changing, and a lot of the insurance plans actually cover some of this because it's considered medical necessity. Some don't, and so we fight that. We have benefits counselors and insurance counselors who will work with you to push and push and push. We've had some services that were declined, and we don't stand for that. And so we'll keep going, and we'll make it happen.
Okay, that sounds good to me because after the holidays, I'm making an appointment to come see you.
Oh, please do.
So also, for those of you that are not familiar, there is a documentary that was shown last year talking about this and the wonderful Dr. Jess Ting. And this documentary is called Born to Be. And right now, it's actually streaming on filmforum.org. And you want to tell us a little bit more about this wonderful documentary?
Sure. So the documentary is basically following a patient through the different services that are done. It's also pretty much reflecting what our service is all about. Dr. Ting is one of our top surgeons in this area, and he explained all along the way, both to the patient as well as to the camera, what was going on, what the expectations could be, both pre-op and post-op. It was done really not so much on a medical level, but it was really on a level whereby the common person could understand it. And I thought that was super important because we don't need a lecture about medical services through an academic medical center. We need something that we can actually understand. And that's what I thought was so beautiful about that film.
And again, for those people that are interested in this film, and it features the Center for Transgender Medicine, it's called Born to Be. It's streaming at filmforum.org. Matt, is there anything I didn't ask you that you think that our viewers need to know?
Well, I would say, and I'll share this with Coco later, and she can blast this out to everybody here about our webpage, as well as a way to get in touch with us. Our program is completely domestic and international.
Actually, I don't know whether you can see it. It's actually at the banner below. We put the website in there too. So
perfect. Our program covers the entire United States, and it's also international. Through the magic of telemedicine, we can do some preoperative workups. So you don't necessarily have to come to New York City to get your surgeries done. But we also can do consults for everything else from endocrinology to voice surgeries. We're open. We're as sensitive as we possibly can. We have a track record that's successful. And I really feel that we have a unique product that serves the population that I am most interested in and I want to help, which is the LGBT population. So if we can't get you what you need, just like the person from Triversity, which I really loved, and I'm going to contact her, if we can't get you what you need, we'll help you find it. And that's important to us. We're here to serve.
And Matt, I really thank you. I truly meant it when I said that you were my hero because of the things that you do in your private life that most of us in the court system do not know about, and how many lives you have helped change. And so I thank you so much. And let's have lunch sometime soon.
I would absolutely love that, Coco. Yes. And I say congratulations to everybody on the show.
Wait,
perfect.
Let's remind everyone also, Matt was also the reigning homecoming queen of Cherry Grove Fire Island.
Absolutely. Yes. I was the reigning queen. IKEA, the Viking Empress, horns and all. It was absolutely the best time ever.
You were beautiful, and you're beautiful tonight. And I thank you again. And thank you for bringing this event to a high note of hope and solutions for a lot of people out there.
It's my pleasure, Coco. And as I said, please get in touch with us for any questions or concerns. We are always here to help. And even if your doctors have some questions or concerns to treat you, come to us and we'll see what we can do for helping you out. We really want to.
Thank you again, Matt. Matt Baney, everyone, Senior Director of Mount Sinai Center of Transgender Medicine and Surgery.
Thanks for doing this, Coco. It's beautiful. Thank you, everybody.
I would like to say thank you to all of our panelists, too many to name today, but for sharing with us their personal experience. But before we say goodbye, let's just bring back our reigning monarchs, Emperor Graham and Empress Maddie. And before I turn over to you, I just really want to say thank you to everyone for making today happen, especially the person behind the camera that made sure the program actually happened. Veronica Blake, you are godsend. You are a genius. I owe my whole life to you, and more kimchi. So Emperor and Empress, what do we have in store for us in the next for the holidays?
Well, we have a lot of things going on right now. Right now, we have an auction going on. It's going to end on Sunday night, so please check it out. Go to the ICNY web pages. Every month, we're doing an auction, and it's for we're auctioning off things for different organizations. Since this year, since this month is November, we have two different programs going. One is the auction, which will help us raise money for feeding a couple of our beneficiaries. And the other one is for Thursday's Child, which is Long Island based. And we're trying to raise enough money to get some of their many clients some food cards, gift cards to help. We're not going to be able to feed everybody everything, but we can help make their holiday a little easier. The Emperor and I, along with a few of the other court members, will also be helping distribute food for God's Love We Deliver on Thanksgiving Day. And the court will also be taking care of our friends at Trinity Place Shelter. The court of New York is actually supplying their entire Thanksgiving meal, and we're going to bring some extras and stuff to make sure that they're not hungry for a week or two afterwards. So we'll be doing a lot of running around on Thanksgiving. We have the auction going on. We also have something going on right now. If you missed the original viewing, Virtually Live 2 is still available to see and to enjoy. And that's also helping us raise money for God's Love We Deliver, who is one of our favorite charities for this reign.
And I know that all of this information are available on our website as well. And Emperor, a parting words from you on the Day of Remembrance.
I want to say that I just thank everyone that participated tonight. I'm seeing wonderful comments coming up on the screen here. I learned a lot tonight, and I'm happy about that. And I learned the importance of resources. And certainly our last speaker, Matt, was one of the people that can help with all the medical stuff. Wendy can help us with all the wonderful stuff that's happening in the tri-state area. And I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for participating. Thank you for viewing, and remember their names.
Yes, and I'd like to thank everyone who participate, especially to the two of you. You've been working really hard this past year, despite COVID-19. We're making things work. We're raising good money, and you both look fabulous. But I also wanted to thank Empress Danielle Logan from Hawaii, Emperor Jaime Alaniz from Indiana. We would like to thank Empress Sugar Be Real, Emperor Harrington. They're both from New York. Also our panelists that included the Grand Duchess Fran, Lady Wendy Darling, the Baroness Dolores Dégagé, and unfortunately one of our other panelists, Baroness Egyptt, LaBeija, was unable to get in the show because she had two other shows that she's doing. We were trying to catch her in between at her break, but it didn't work out. But we want to thank her anyway. And we'd like to also remind everyone that those that are viewing, if you enjoyed today's show and think that it's important, please tell your friends about it, because this show will be available in the Imperial Court of New York channel on YouTube. So it'll be available, very shortly, and you can watch this again. This is our first trans-specific programming. I hope you feel as strongly as all of us here that it is an important thing that we needed to do. And hopefully the next time we meet, it'll be at happier times. And with that, I'd like to say thank you, good night, on this day, the Transgender Day of Remembrance.
And a quick shout out, don't forget Fran, Bryce, and Keyth.
Yes. Bryce McKinzie from Kentucky, and Teighlor Davis from Hamilton, Ontario. We are really all over. Thank you so much.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.